I didn't see you there. What are you doing here? What are you doing? It's me and Steve. And we're coming to you here from his hot tub. That's right. 2 guys, no girls, 1 hot tub. Lots of fun. I think I got so much cool water in this. It's alright. So, it's week 7. After a fantastic week 6, where I beat him, we're gonna have a great week in week 7. Some great matchups, great names for matchups. I mean, I'm talking just like all around great week. But first, let's talk about our most recent trade in which Frem de la Creme decided to trade Shane Vereen to Jakith for Ruben Randall.
Retard.
Am I right?
Retard.
How'd that work out? Well, Vereen had 28 points on Thursday night. And Randall, who knows, man? Who the fuck knows with the Giants? The Cowboys are playing really well. Who knows? Good trade for him. I mean, honestly, with Shane Vereen coming off an injury for Stephen Ridley, you gotta give him an opportunity. 1 week. And if he sucks, you trade him. Not a good trade. So let's get right down to it, shall we? In our battle of the Vagina Gap, number 4, Jones with Green, aka this guy right here.
Right here.
Takes on number 12, team of fucking peasants, aka Fremdog.
Roadkill.
Roadkill. Now, luckily for Frem, despite trading his best player, it seems like now, Chris Ivory put up 22 points. And along with Gronk's mediocre 11, that's pretty solid, especially for a team that put up only fucking 88 points last week. Right?
Come on, man.
Here's the thing. Gronk didn't put up 22 points like all fantasy owners, including Frem, would have liked, which leads to Travis Kelce on his team being a pretty significant factor this week. I mean, if he can get a lot of short touch catches and get the yards after the catch, which he's leading in tight ends against the Chargers, that could be pretty significant. But our matchup to watch this week is certainly Brandon Marshall versus Julio Jones. And the reason being is that if Brandon Marshall can put up as many points or more than Julio, well, Team Peasants might be able to take this one. I mean, Chris Ivory put up 22 points, and besides for Justin Forsett, there's really like no one in the running game that could probably put up 22 points this week for Jones with Green. Mark Ingram's still splitting time with Kyrie Robinson, especially he's coming off the injury, and Bishop Sankey is fucking Bishop Sankey.
Well, let's be real. I'm winning this shit. Frem, you suck.
Yeah, that's what he thinks. But since last week I was correct, beating Jones with Green, the trend of being wrong about Bohr back here is broken. And honestly, because of the game Chris Ivory had, I'm going Team of Peasants.
Sorry, Bohrback.
In our battle to play Frem for the Sacco, number something, been there, raped that, aka Emilitio, still in Asia, Gold Rico, takes on Typhoid Carter, aka Fry Guy.
Who doesn't accept good trades. What the fuck's up with that?
There's 2 matchups to watch here. It's going to be Odell Beckham Jr. versus Brian Quick and Le'Veon Bell versus Giovanni Bernard. Now, this game could come down to Monday night with Le'Veon Bell playing the Texans. And, you know, everyone says to beat the Texans, you got to run the ball. So we could be seeing a lot out of Le'Veon Bell that could determine the game. However, if Bell and Bernard both kind of cancel each other out, that's why we have Brian Quick versus Odell Beckham Jr. Now, me personally, I think Odell Beckham Jr. is going to get a lot more touches than Ruben Randall. I think Frem is just a fucking idiot for acquiring Randall. He's sold too short on Vereen. And Beckham's going to come out as a young stud, very fast receiver, probably get more receptions than Ruben Randall. And Brian Quick's playing the Seahawks, and that's going to be a really tough matchup. But if Quick can match Beckham, you know, this could be a really close game coming down the wire. I think Andrew Luck, I'm kind of looking at 40-plus pass attempts, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions against the Bengals, which still gives him really good numbers. And as for Rye Guy, I mean, Carson Palmer's back. That means Michael Floyd was his favorite receiver. He's going to be back as well, and probably in top form. I know Fitz had a really good game last week, but I just don't see Fitz outperforming Floyd, even though they are playing each other, as Emil has Fitz.
My nipple is so hard right now. Jesus.
And the last thing I'm going to say about this game is the reason these 2 teams are not, you know, on a top tier is because of the flex play. I mean, Emil has Greg Jennings in his flex, and like, who the fuck knows what's going on with the Vikings? And Rye Guy has Devontae Adams, which is a bit of a stretch. I mean, he might have had a good game last week, but if you know anything about Aaron Rodgers, Rodgers is the king at spreading it around besides maybe Peyton Manning. but even more so, Rodgers knows how to get young receivers involved and have big games. So I think Rye Guy's move to pick up Devontae Adams, if it was this week, is just a waiver wire, like quick reaction. I don't see him having that much, but neither is Greg Jennings. So with all that being said, Typhoid Carter takes the win. Pour that, pass me a beer. In our game of the week, number 2, Clinton Dixon Lewinsky takes on number 3, Macklin on some bitches, aka Ewing versus me. Now, this is pretty obviously the game of the week for a number of reasons. 2 versus 3 seed. And if you look at the running backs, Jamal Charles versus the Chargers and DeMarco Murray versus the Giants take on my running backs, and Marshawn Lynch playing the Rams and Ellington playing the Raiders. Now, with the new trade of Percy Harvin, sucks for Emil, but the new trade to Percy Harvin means Marshawn Lynch should have more running opportunities. I mean, let's be real, they're getting rid of their other running threat. However, the Rams did a pretty good job against the 49ers in the run, but that's about it. So that's definitely the matchup to watch. Besides for the running backs, the matchup to watch is the tight ends, Greg Olsen versus Jordan Cameron. Now, I think Greg Olsen's going to outperform Cameron against the Packers. Sam Shields is out, this Packers starting corner, which is definitely going to be hurtful. But I think, if Jordan Cameron can put up 5 receptions, 70 yards and a touchdown against the Jaguars, which is not really that big a reach, that can be huge for me. Also, since Jimmy Graham is a game-time decision, if he's going to play, he's going to be a decoy probably, meaning Brandon Cooks will get all the small passes and most of the PPR points. Maybe we'll finally see him get in the end zone, which will be fantastic for me. We've also got Steve Smith versus the Falcons. I'm actually kind of scared about this one. I think Steve Smith's going to go off. Falcons are just fucking trash, and the Ravens threw the ball pretty well last week, so I think they're not going to have 5 touchdowns in the first half, but have a pretty solid game. But if this game is as close as Yahoo projects, as I project, well, it might come down to Monday night when I have Houston defense and Ewing doesn't have anyone. They're playing Steelers. I mean, there's probably going to be a guaranteed couple sacks, but it kind of depends. Is this going to be a primetime blowout? I don't know.
I do. Ben's gonna lose.
No! That's wrong. Macklin on some bitches is gonna win. In our battle of Jake versus Carter, because I don't have a name, but Carter hates Jake, and Jake talks so much shit to Carter, it might as well just be the battle between Jake and Carter. AKA Nelson's Mandela's at number 1 versus Rice's Bloody Fists at who the fuck really gives a shit. Well, now that Jake is Shane Vereen, thanks to Frem.
Peasantry, friend dog. Peasantry.
Team of peasants managed by a peasant himself. Like I said, now that Jake has Shane Vereen and 28 extra points, it's going to be pretty difficult for Carter to win this one, especially with LaShawn McCoy out. So our matchup to watch is going to be Jordy versus Randall Cobb. Who's going to get more passes? But Jake has Aaron Rodgers. So in order for this really to be a fair matchup, Randall Cobb has to run the ball, kind of like we've seen with Percy Harvin a little bit. And they do that with Cobb, but not very often. Not to mention Dez Bryant. I've been just waiting for the massive game for Dez Bryant. We've seen it out of Julio Jones a couple times, Brandon Marshall, Antonio Gates. Who else? Who else is in massive games?
Fucking Julio Jones.
Who said that?
Fuck you.
A couple other players have had massive games that Dez Bryant, who we're accustomed to seeing having a pretty big game, is not. And because of that, I mean, it's the Giants. They had a great game last week.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to get blown out, and I'm not saying Dez Bryant's necessarily going to have a big game, as DeMarco's been playing so well. But I wouldn't be surprised if Dez gets one of those massive 200-yard games. Oh, T.Y. Hilton's another example. T.Y. had one last week. Who forgot? It also doesn't really help that C.J. Spiller just had an absolutely miserable game last week, because I believe, and any betting man should believe, that Fred Jackson is about to get almost all of the touches. I mean, they're going to use Spiller, but look for Fred Jackson to be on the field the majority of the time. And since Kyle Orton is Kyle Orton, right? They're probably just going to dump it off a bunch. PBR points for Fred Jackson, goal line touches for Fred Jackson. This could be really ugly for Carter. And this is one of those games that, yes, Jake puts up a lot of points, but this could be one of those obscure weeks when Jordy goes off, Dez Bryant goes off, Fred Jackson goes off, Shane Vereen goes off, and Jimmy Graham's on the bench. Not to mention Mohamed Sanu could have a big game. It could be a shootout versus the Colts. The only real light at the end of the tunnel for Carter is Russell Wilson. I think he could definitely replicate the game Kaepernick had against the Rams, but one quarterback's not going to beat an entire team. Look for Carter to have a team of peasants kind of game and put up maybe 80-some points. Trash McGee over there.
Yeah.
So I'm going Nelson Mandela. Right.
Easy call. Easy call.
But I think we can all agree with Carter on this one that we all fucking hate Jake. In our battle of the butt plug, Prefer, aka Le'Veon's Blunt Cruise, takes on Chip, aka Chip's D. Prefer's dropped 3 straight, Chip's dropped 2 straight, I believe, so clearly their assholes are leaking and they need a plug to stop it. Our matchup to watch here is definitely Drew Brees versus Cam Newton. Brees has been playing like trash, and Cam just came off a great game.
All right, can I stop you right there, Commissioner? Spliff, please.
Oh, right. That's that super sour diesel, baby. Cali medicine.
The butt plug spliff.
Ooh. Brees versus Newton. Now, Brees, like I said, has been playing like trash. The thing here is that if Drew Brees doesn't turn it around this game, Saints season's pretty much over. And I don't know if he will turn it around. I really don't know if he'll turn it around. Is this my beard? I don't know. I do know this. Cam had a great game. Fuck. Cam had a great game last week. This week he's playing the Packers, and it could go one of 2 ways. Either Cam has a solid game running the ball on the Packers, throwing to Greg Olsen, possibly Benjamin if he's not hurt, or he doesn't have as good a game as he did last week, and the Packers D, who are one of the top teams, if not the league leader in turnovers this year, step up, you know? I mean, the Panthers don't really have much of a running game, so that can make them focus more on Cam and the passing attack. And they're at Lambeau too. Cam's kind of a bitch on the away, especially in cold games. So that's the matchup to watch. Unfortunately for Chip, his wide receivers are like absolute trash.
Trash Mickey Steen. That's that small D status, Chip.
Little tiny D. I mean, Cecil Shorts is your number 3. Wes Welker and Michael Crabtree are about as poor and inconsistent as a unreliable homeless man. Right? I guess so. That makes sense.
Yeah.
He's really
right.
poor. Can't show up. He's flaky, man. Like, he's flaky. And that's what Welker's been. 3 points, I think, like on average, which is not Wes Welker status.
Chip D small status.
But why would you want to throw to a little tiny white guy when you have Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas, and Emmanuel Sanders? Now, Prefer's Ben Tate, who, coming off his injury, has scored 2 touchdowns, and now is playing the Jaguars. I think that could be a massive game, or at least maybe another 2-touchdown game. He doesn't put up like a lot of yards, you know. It's the Jaguars. They'll pound it with Ben Tate. So that's a pretty good game for Prefer. I'm going Le'Veon's Blunt Cruise. I don't know how I can take Chip's little flaccid, soft, definitely ski dick, penis, little D kind of thing.
Just real life small dick is, I think, what I was trying to say.
Yeah, like the size of his. In her battle of the UTI, Chris Mastro Simone, aka the Mastrobators, takes on Brandon Nairo, aka Pieces of Shit.
The pieces.
Now you might be asking yourself, Ben, why is it called the Battle of the UTI? And no, it's not because they're both sick fucks and got the disease from the same girl. It's called the Battle of the UTI because when you mix someone masturbating and pieces of shit, what happens, Borback?
Diseases.
Diseases! Like the ones that all of you sick fucks have.
That's right.
Now there's 2 matchups to watch here. Joique Bell versus Frank Gore, Lamar Miller versus Arian Foster. Now I think Lamar Miller and Arian Foster are both going to have solid games and kind of cancel each other out. Miller versus the Bears, Foster versus the Steelers. But if Joique Bell can be the reason the Lions beat the Saints in the Dome, not because of the passing game, which would be great for me because I'm playing Stafford, and Gore gets shut down by the Denver defense, or if he can turn it up and get the running game going and make this a close game this week, that's going to be the determining factor, I believe. Well, I kind of believe that. I mean, Heroes receivers are so goddamn bad compared to Mastro's that it might not even be a close matchup to begin with.
Terrible.
Tell me which receiving core is better. Andre Johnson, Kendall Wright, Hakeem Nicks, or Demaryius Thomas, Deshaun Jackson, and Terrence Williams. Case in point, Heroes team definitely does not win. Masturbators are taking this one home as well as their UTI. Those are your projections, gentlemen. Thank you, Steve, for joining me. A hot tub beer. Those are your projections. Good luck.